So back in the early to mid 2000s, I was starting to dip my toes in anime a bit. Not your usual like Dragon Balls or One Pieces or anything like that. I was getting into like the children's toy sort of type of anime, like I don't know, like Pokemon or Sonic X, even though that Sonic's not really toy, or it might be if you get the action figures. But yeah, I was just starting to dip my toes into like yeah, just your first steps anime type of thing. And also Digimon, because I was watching a little bit of Digimon Fusion at the time. And Digimon Fusion was on Nicktoons, but I didn't really have Nicktoons. I just knew it was there from like a promo that was on regular Nickelodeon. So I ended up having to like watch episodes on YouTube that were either crunched with like small screens and like high pitched voices, or the videos the episodes are split up into like segmented videos, like episode 5 part 1, episode 5 part 2, things like that. And so I found out, because I was sort of eloping over Nicktoons at the time, that there was this new anime that was airing on there called Little Bowser's Experience. And yeah, I watched it back in the day, so I don't know. I wanted to sort of do a retrospective on it because I don't really see a lot of people talking about this series, because I don't know how many people even remember this thing even existing, because it was kind of a blink it you miss it thing. It's like there was no DVDs or anything, and I definitely know they're not airing it on the channel anymore. So yeah, it's practically lost media in the US, but I'm pretty sure it's somewhat still well known in Japan. It depends, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So, what is LBX Little Bowler's Experience? Well, the series is called in Japan Danball Senki, which I think translates to like cardboard fighters or something like that. And it was a cross media series that was created by Level 5. Uh, in Level 5, they've also made other games slash franchises, like I think they did Professor Layton, but I know they definitely did Inazuma 11, which is like that soccer anime game thing, and Yokai Watch. Yokai Watch was also a series that they were trying to get to go in the US at the time. I think that was somewhat a little more successful. At least I think more people knew about that than Little Bow's Experience. But again, getting ahead of myself a little bit. So yeah, Little Bow's Experience was originally conceptualized in Japan as Danball Senki by Level 5. And yeah, Danball Senki was first released. The game was released in June of 2011. Now, the game was the first conceptualization of this series, but the anime series that was based on the game was released beforehand. I think the anime got delayed by like a year or something, and they decided let's just release the anime a few months before the game. So at least I did it somewhat right, because I watched the anime before I even played the game. And I thought the entire time the game came before the anime, which it sort of did, but again, with like debut in Japan, it definitely the anime came first before the game. So I guess they somewhat did it right in the US. And yeah, so Danball Senki, it was a game made for the PSP, and then the anime was followed with that. And the anime adaptation of the first game, because there are multiple games in the Danball Senki series, but like the first game's anime adaptation was 44 episodes in Japan, and it eventually got an English dub too, actually. The first English dub, I believe, was the one that was produced in Hong Kong and aired on Animax in 2012. And then soon, uh, Dentsu Entertainment got the rights to dub it and then air it on Nicktoons. But here's the thing, though: the Dentsu Entertainment dub is very different, because you kind of know what happens when you're dubbing anime in the US if it's like aimed towards children, because yeah, this Danball Zenki is kind of essentially a kids anime, But you know, kids anime is very different with standards and practices in the U.S. compared to Japan. Like Japan's a little bit hardcore, if you know what I mean. So yeah, well, first of all, they cut down the number of episodes from 44 to 26 in the Nicktoons dub because I guess they felt like some plot points were either unnecessary or problematic, and you'll definitely see why as I go through the series. Yeah, so the Nicktoons dub was 26 episodes. It aired in August of 2014, and before there was also they made a second series uh based on the second game Danball Senki W. And you know, again, in Japan that had its own anime series, but then it obviously got cut down for the Nicktoons dub. And before that Nicktoons dub aired of the second season, they released um English adaptation for the first game on the 3DS. So if you were like, you know, into like Nintendo Treehouse slash Nintendo Direct, you might have seen a Little Bowser's experience for the 3DS. They did a Nintendo 3DS Treehouse event. There was also like a small LBX tournament that was held in the Nintendo Center. I think it was in New York, and they also like gave people the first look at like the dub of season two, like the first two episodes, and I think someone won like a model or something from that. I think there's footage you can find on the YouTube for that, but yeah. So the Little Bowser's Experience 3DS game, I played it, and I think that's the best way you could probably experience the full story since, you know, the English Nicktoons dub is not that faithful because again they had to cut some stuff out, they had to abridge some stuff. And there's aside from like the Hong Kong dub, because I don't know how in the world you're gonna get able to get your hands on it. I mean, I was able to find a few episodes on like archive.org, but again, that's neither here nor there. It's not gonna. I'm probably not gonna be able to follow the episodes that cover the whole series. Um, and aside from that, there was also the LBX manga, but that is definitely way more abridged than anything else. But I don't think that was anything on the Western side. I think it was always just meant to be an abridged retelling of the game that was like published in I think Coral Comics or something else. Yeah, because like the first game adaptation in that series is like only 3 volumes, and then they did the second one for another 3 volumes. So yeah, so right now I think LBX is kind of a lost medium in the US. I'm pretty sure you can still find stuff in Japan for it. But yeah, like I know like the only immediate thing you can find is the manga, the the English dub of the anime you're gonna have to sell high seas for. I did discover like sub episodes for LBX like I think like a year ago, but I can't find it anymore. So I don't know, maybe that site got taken down. So yeah, it's definitely going to be hard to compare both the English and Japanese versions of the anime. I can still talk about the game in comparison to the English dub of the anime because again, the game is like the best English version of the original story that we're going to get. I like ever. I don't see, unless LBX gets a full on reboot. I don't see it ever like getting you know, a rightful redub. So yeah, so that's just the history of Lil Bow's experience slash Danball Senki, and we are going to start this retrospective by talking about the first 3 episodes of the anime slash, you know, the first mini arc of the game. And for this first episode, I'm going to be somewhat jumping between the Nicktoons and Hong Kong dub of the first episode, and I might sprinkle in whatever knowledge I have about the game, the 3DS game, because I do have the game, but I haven't played it in a while, and to be honest, I don't feel like playing through the full game for this retrospective. If I might end up just going to like Tripmon's like playthrough they did like way back for anything I might miss. and I might be going from memory for some of this, so yeah, just bear with me. But yeah, we're gonna start with the first episode. So so what is okay? I've been talking about little Balor's experience slash Danball Senki for a bit. So you're probably wondering, okay, you've been what is this about? What is this series about? Well, in the year 2046, the Tiny Orbit tech company releases a new toy series of miniature robots called LBX. It is called LBX in the series. These are small miniature robots, and they said, "Hey, this is our new toy line. You know, have fun." And okay, so here's the kicker. Okay, these toy robots were meant to be played between kids as they battle each other, kind of like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, except these robots can actually kill somebody. Like, I am not joking. They have like miniature guns, rocket launchers, bombs, swords, and they are small, but they're very powerful, fast and dangerous machines. And I don't know what is going on in this in this world where they thought this was an acceptable thing to sell to children. Because very quickly, like they're taken off store shelves. Like parents are complaining that they're dangerous. I don't know if any children got hurt from these toys. It's implied maybe that that's what happened. But yeah, that's just an insane thing to do, and I'm surprised Tiny Orbit didn't go under for that. So yeah, the future is very bleak. But yeah, so crisis averted, right? Well, no, because um Tiny Orbit's other product, Indestructible Cardboard, was making the rounds of logistics because, again, Indestructible Cardboard was able to protect anything they were shipping, and like it was good in shipping and delivery. And so they decided, hey, like we can uh cash in on LBX again, but this time we are going to have cardboard dioramas using our Indestructible Cardboard for the robots to fight in. So that way, parents won't complain that, I don't know, their kid got, like, I don't know, shot with a laser or something. So, yeah, OBX were back on the market and it sold like hotcakes. And they're like, hey, LBX, we're back with this, but you gotta make sure the robots stay in the battle box, okay? So we don't get any more lawsuits. And for the most part, they sort of worked, but as we're gonna see in this series, not everyone follows, the unwritten rule of keep the battle inside the box. But I don't know, somehow everyone was cool with it. So that is the backstory for the creation of these toys. And something interesting is that this series kind of it doesn't do it all the time and not perfectly, but it kind of addresses some of like the logic behind like anime children's toys being a thing. Like it's like you see people make tweets about Beyblade where people are like, "Hey, people are just walking around with like a tactical nuke in their pockets and everyone's okay with it." LBX sort of addresses this sometimes, but obviously the whole point of the show is just to sell you toys, so they're not gonna harp on it too much. But I just find that whole backstory of the LBX creation in the series to be interesting because it does address how pretty dangerous and stupid giving kids little tiny dangerous robots are. Like it's basically like a tiny version of Metabots, because I know Metabots are also somewhat dangerous, but I think they have like some type of mental block that prevents them from attacking humans. But that's not in Lil Bao's experience because every Lil Bao, like LBX, are mostly controlled by humans unless they're automated or something. But there's no mental block that prevents LBX from attacking humans. So that is definitely going to be a problem that shows up in the series. So yeah, so we're gonna move forward. So we jump to the year 2050, and first thing is we see our main character, Van Umano, and his friends, Amy and Kaz, as they're participating in an LBX tournament called Artemis. It's the World Championship, and they finish bulldozing the American team. And they have a flashback thinking, wow, we're in this tournament to save the world. I wonder how we got into this crazy situation. And then the OP drops, or if you're watching the English version, like the Nicktoons English version, the OP happens before, And the OP isn't the original OP; it's like a narration with some visuals. But yeah, then the Japanese version it plays like the regular Japanese intro. Um, and so yeah, we flash back. I guess like I don't know, like a few months or something. But there's this lady scientist named Rena, and she's escaping from this facility carrying a suitcase, and is being pursued by these villain troops that's being commanded by this guy named Commander Aaron in the Nicktoons dub, or Yagami in the Japanese one. I'm probably gonna be jumping between English and Japanese names. I don't know if anyone's really gonna notice, but I'm gonna do my best to try to. I don't know. I might need to explain who all these characters are, but yeah. So this Commander Aaron guy, he's like in charge of like. I'm gonna get a little bit of the pretenses out of the way. So the bad guys are called the New Dawn Razors, or the Innovators, as they're called in Japan. But I think the New Dawn Razors is a better name. And Commander Aaron commands, I think, like the Red Brigade or something. But he's basically commanding his own sector of the organization, and he's trying to chase after Rena, who stole some technology from them. I believe they were working on an LBX, and she took that LBX. So um, then we jump to the morning where we see a van who is running towards like the LBX model shop, and he meets up with his friends, and uh the store owner's like, hey guys, I got something for you. You want to see this? We got this new LBX armor frame, and it must be super rare because we didn't receive any heads up about this, and we haven't seen this on any other market. And the frame is called Achilles, and it's got like this really cool cover art and text, but it's taken out in the English version because I don't know, like kids can't read or something. Like it's in Japanese and whatnot, but like it's strange because taking out words in English dubs was kind of a 4 kids thing, but this I don't think this wasn't done by 4 kids. I hope not. Like I said, it was Detsu Entertainment, but like the English dub doesn't pretend like this series takes place in America. It says it takes place in Japan. Like so that was just something weird to me, but okay, so yeah, and Van is like, "Oh, cool. I want to get that," but Kaz is like, "Bro, your mom doesn't let you play with LBX. Besides, you're too broke to get one anyway." Like, that's something he says in like the Japanese version or like the Hong Kong version, where he's like, "Bro, we can't afford it." And okay, another thing to get out of the way. Van is the son of Professor Yamano, who created the LBX. And this is something that I always need to piece together because he essentially like created like the first LBX like robot. And I think what happened was he sold the idea to Tiny Orbit, and that's how LBX came into production. And I'm just always thinking, why are the Yamanos living in like this really small house when he essentially like changed like the action figure toy game? Like they're not living in like a mansion or something. So yeah, I think Kaz is right about calling Van broke because I don't know what happened. I don't maybe Professor Yamano was like on a rigged version of like Shark Tank or something because they should be like living it up. But yeah, so yeah, Kaz is like busting his balls. He's like, yeah, you can't get one. You're broken. Your mom won't let you have one. And oh, I'll explain why in a minute. But so Van is like, yeah, okay, well, let's see if you're still talking crap when I beat you. So what Van does is since he can't own an LBX because his mom won't let him, he like goes to the model store and rents an LBX and like plays with it in like their dioramas with his friends and then returns it. So that's what he does right now. So like he beats Kaz and he's like, yeah, I'm a real prodigy and whatnot, and so they leave for the day, and Van like sits by the waterside and is thinking about why he can't have an LBX. So again, his dad created the LBX, and so his dad became a prolific scientist. Again, I still don't know why they're living in that small house, but what happened was a few years ago, his dad went on a plane trip to the Neo Technology Summit in the US with a bunch of other scientists. However, the plane went mysteriously missing. Ooh, like he's alive. I'm not even gonna try to pretend at this point, but yeah, his plane went mysteriously missing, and I should have given a spoiler warning, but I don't. You probably didn't even know this show existed until you clicked on it, or I don't know, maybe I don't know, maybe this like unlocks something, but yeah, his plane went missing and he was assumed dead. And Van's mom was really upset by this and is like, "Nah, the LBX took your dad away from me because he liked working on those robots, so he went on that trip. Therefore, my son, you cannot have the toy that your dad created, and I'm surprised you didn't have one already, unless you threw all them all out." But that's basically his situation. And after that flashback is done, he is approached by Rena, who gives him the case and says, "Hey, yo, what's inside this case is important. It can either help or destroy humanity. Hope and despair, all that good stuff, like it's Danganronpa." So, and Rena is being pursued by Commander Aaron's goons, who have like clown masks on, and I don't know what they're called in Japanese, but in English they're called Eeny, Meeny, Miny, and the three of them are called the Moes. Yeah, just knockoff Team Rocket type goons. And so Rena like jukes them and runs away, while Van takes the case, and they notice him with the case, and so they follow him. And Van returns to his house, and he opens the case, and he sees that's an LBX labeled AX00, and the Moes are spying on him, and they're trying to see what happens when Van like puts his hand on the LBX, because this is different in translation because of censorship and whatnot. But basically, in the original version, it stated that if an unauthorized person touches AX00, they get shot with like a poison dart. In the censored version, it's said to be an electro laser lock that shocks the person, knocks him out, while the data inside the LBX is deleted. And when Van touches the LBX, nothing happens to him. He's fine because he is the authorized user. And they're like, okay, well, we need to go get that LBX because we're the bad guys. And so what they do is they send their own LBX in to get it. So this is gonna be a big thing. So like if the villains are not like I don't know like actively like physically fighting the heroes, they're gonna be sending their LBX in. Why? Because LBX are freaking dangerous, like I told you in the beginning. So what they do is they send their LBX into Van's house, and like one of them is like, "Hey yo, we're taking that LBX. You better get down." And so they start like shooting like their small robot guns like all over the place to get Van to duck. Now this is somewhat censored in the English version because while Van never gets shot, they sort of shoot at him, like they're shooting in the air, point near him, shoot near him, and all this other stuff, and so Van has to duck. And yeah, I guess they wanted to hide the fact that the LBX can like harm humans. Again, Van doesn't get hurt by the LBX, but they're threatening to hurt him if he doesn't back off and let them take AX00. And also another censorship that happens in the series is that all the LBX's guns have like this weird like electric laser tint over them. Like if it's like a rifle or a pistol, then there's just like this weird glowing tint over it that has like electricity bubbling over it, and it's very ugly. And the strange thing is, like, aside from look, I get them trying to censor that the LBX can hurt people, but to also censor the LBX guns when like most of the fights, if they're not threatening the humans, are LBX against each other, why would you censor the guns of the robots that are fighting other robots? Because they censored the enemy LBX like shooting near Van because they just end up shooting away from him. It's weirdly edited in the English version. So if you're gonna go that far, then there's no real reason to censor like the laser guns. But it is what it is. So Van is like, okay, well, you're not gonna take him, and then he takes out his controller and starts commanding AX to fight the enemy LBX, and he quickly defeats them with his like pole staff. And the three retreats because I guess they're not ready to like jump a kid. I guess I you're gonna find out how evil the new Dawn Razors are, so I'm surprised that they didn't try to like jump him at this point. But their LBX are defeated. They just run away, and um, Van's mom comes home and finds the house trashed. Like this is what happens when you give a bunch of people like a bunch of laser guns and rockets and stuff as toys, and her house is trashed. And she's like, Van, what did you go out and buy them? This is why you're always on that dang phone all the time, that dang LBX controller. This is what happens. But she lets it go, and she like walks to another room and is like, well, it's finally happened, huh? So she definitely knows something is going on, but it won't be revealed till later. And it cuts back to um it cuts back to like the bad guy layer where Commander Aaron is confronting Professor Yamano. He's like, you set up the LBX to be stolen, and Rena delivering it to Van. Like you knew this was gonna happen. You're trying to destroy the world. And he doesn't really say anything, but in the English dub they like cut some scenes together where like the professor's like, no, I'm not trying to destroy the world, but I'll make sure you guys can't destroy it with the LBX. Also, I missed a scene where it takes place in like a coffee shop where there are these two guys who are gonna reveal to be like secret agents named Lex and Tyler, and they're also investigating the OBX being stolen, and they want to get on top of that. But I missed that before, so yeah. So that is the end of episode one. That is definitely a way to start a series. We got just you know killer toys and yeah, it's insane. This is I just can't wait to talk about more how insane this series is, but I will move on to episode 2. Okay, episode 2. So Van wakes up the next morning and has breakfast with his mom, and for some stupid reason, I don't know, maybe it's just Shonen Kid logic that he doesn't mention the fact that his house was broken into and that he was given an LBX by a stranger, but he's just worried that he's gonna get grounded. But the mom is like, "Hey, it's fine. I'm gonna move on. You can play LBX, but one condition: be the very best that no one ever was." And he's excited about that, but as he leaves for school, his mom gives like a worried look. Again, she knows more than she's letting on, but Van heads to like the model store where Amy already is, and he's like, "Hey, I got this new LBX," and they're like, "Oh, cool. Where'd you get it from?" He's like, "Oh, I was like some crazy woman in the park gave it to me." And they're like, "Ha, Van." And he's like, "No, no, I'm serious." So it cuts away from him trying to explain what happened, and I don't know how much he gives. Like he definitely gives the first part. I don't know. He mentioned the fact that again his house was broken into. Like you would probably make a big deal of that, but I don't know. So at the New Dawn Razor base, like Commander Aaron is interrogating Professor Yamano, and he again reiterates that anyone who isn't Van who touches the AX00 will get the death lock treatment, and the data inside will be deleted. But that lock will only be deactivated if the LBX is in battle. So he's basically challenging like the NDR to like fight Van. He's like, yeah, you can't beat my son. It's kind of like a my son can beat him your dad type of thing. It's but yeah, he's taken away back to his cell, and it cuts back to the store as Van finishes telling what happens, and he's like, okay, what do I do? Like, it's everything is just going crazy, and um, the store owner, whose name is Chief, and he has a wife named Sadie, who both run the store, and he's like, you should probably just hold on to it for now until you figure out what's next. And also, like, Amy has like this cheeky line in like the dub where she's like, "Hey, it's my birthday coming up. If you don't want it, I could take it." So but yeah, Van's excited. He's like, okay, cool. Right now you're my LBX, so I want to get an armor frame because LBX like AX00 is a core skeleton. Core skeleton is what the LBX starts out with, and then when you get armor, you get more defensive speed and other capabilities. And he's like, "Oh, I'll take that armor I saw yesterday, the Achilles armor." And he's like, "Hey," the store owner's like, "Hey, how about I give it to you on the house to celebrate you, finally." Your mom is starting to be cool, so how about I just give it to you on the house? And he's excited, but Sadie says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I already sold that one like earlier this morning." But then she sees like the credit card that the previous customers left, and she's like, "Wait, this credit card's fake." And like she like takes the card, and he's like, "Bro, this is written in Sharpie. How the heck did you not know that this was fake?" And she's like, "I'm sorry, I was tired. It was early in the morning." It's like I don't know. School usually starts at like 8. So, what were people coming to the store at like what 6 a.m. or something? But yeah, so they're like, okay, well, obviously now the armor was stolen, so we need to get it back. And if I get it back, I can still get it for free. And he's like, yes. And so they're like, okay, who were the people who took the Achilles frame? And Sadie's like, well, there were middle schoolers like you. There were like four of them, and one of them was being called Hans. And Amy's like, oh, Hans, he's like a third year, and he's a juvenile delinquent. He runs a gang, and so they're like, okay, well, we need to go find him. So they head for school, and at school they meet up with Kaz, and he's like, oh, cool, you have an LBX, and he's like, yeah, but I want to get that Achilles armor frame. So can you help us find Hans? And he's like, don't do it, man. Like that guy will like destroy your LBX. That's how good he is in battling. It's not worth it, man, because LBX are essentially kind of like iPhones or PS5s in terms of expensive. So yeah, it's gonna be a mess of like you get your LBX destroyed. Like good luck trying to get a new one. So he's like, don't do it. It's not worth it. And he walks away. So then it cuts to Tiny Orbit. Now I mentioned earlier that Tiny Orbits were the one of the big manufacturers of LBX. I think there are other manufacturers around, but they're the biggest ones. And so the president of Tiny Orbit, Damon, is finishing up a meeting, and he is confronted by another one of the board members who is like, "Hey, like a few days ago, you sent out a armor frame that wasn't approved by the board. Like this could ruin your reputation if you don't run these things by us." And so Damon pulls up the designs for Achilles. So Damon manufactured Achilles by from blueprints he was mysteriously sent, and sent them out. Well, and sent the Achilles frame out because he wanted to see what it was made of, because he's like, yo, these designs are incredible. And one of the board members, who I don't remember his name, but he's like wearing a gold ring or something. He is a member of the New Dawn Razors, a member of the bad guys, and he's like sending notes of the Achilles frame to his superiors. And when Damon leaves, he is approached by one of the scientists who says a new armor was sent to him, and this armor is not it's not just an armor, but it's a full LBX with the skeleton inside. The design is for an LBX called Hunter, and the message says that Hunter is meant to support Achilles in battle. And he says, hey, manufacture this, send it out, the fate of the world rest on you doing this, yada yada yada. So it's confirmed very quickly that like the guy who's sending these designs is Professor Yamano, Van's dad. So Damon follows it up, and manufactures Hunter. So after school, Van and Amy are approached by another classmate named Gabe, who is like this pudgy donut lipped guy who doesn't really contribute much. He's just cannon fodder, and he like simps for Amy, but Amy just has no time for him. So he's like, hey man, I modified my LBX, like maybe it'll be cool for you, Amy. And she's like, yeah, whatever. We're trying to find Hans. You want to come? I guess like you can be a meat shield. And so he does. So they go around the school looking for Hans, and every time they axe it, like all the students just run away. They're like, no, we don't want to deal with that. And so they're like dejected. They're like, man, no one wants to be around Hans. I guess he's that much of a monster. And so they're approached by another classmate that doesn't matter, Miku, who is like this emo girl. And she's like, yeah, I can tell you where Hans is because I took a picture of him because I'm a stalker. He hangs out like behind like the gym in like some alley. So they're like, okay, well, we know where to go. Let's do this thing. And so they head out. behind the school and like make their way through the alley. And at a certain point they are like cornered by like three of Hans's goons who are like again they're like middle schoolers like them, but like one is just a tiny girl in kimono, another one's like the like a human thumb basically, and another is just like a zombie with like a long tongue. Like, so yeah, I don't know, like these kids are like built different, man. There's something in the water supply. I think that the names are Rico, Tank, and Genji, and they perform like a Team Rocket type maneuver. Like, hey, you want to mess with Hans, you got to go through us. And yeah, everyone's just cringing at this, and they're like, okay, like let's do this thing. And so they throw out a D cube or battle cube, which is like the again LBX are supposed to be fought in like cardboard boxes, but like a D cube is compressed and it folds out to become the diorama. So that's what they throw out, and they're like, okay, let's throw down. So they accept the challenge and begin to fight. So. Oh, and Amy's LBX is Kunoichi. She's like a fast pink ninja type of robot, and um, what's his name? Not Gabe's LBX is like a why am I even mentioning Gabe? He doesn't matter, but like his it's like a knight with like tank treads on it, but whatever. So yeah, so they start fighting and like Van has to be careful because again he doesn't have armor equipped. He just has AX00's main skeleton, so he can take damage easily. And so Gabe immediately gets washed. Like everyone just like all the bad guys just gang up on him, and and his robot explodes. And Gabe just picks up like the head and just says, "I'm going home. I'm going home," and he just dips. And bro, it's so funny. He's like, "Bro, that's all you're gonna do?" He immediately get washed and just goes home. He's just like, "I'm done. What? I'm going home, man." So that happens. So Van and Amy have to continue fighting. And again, Van's taking more damage because he doesn't have armor, but AX00 is able to predict the enemy's movements, and seeing the patterns allows Van to act. I don't know, AX00 just sometimes does things on its own because why not? Like it would be very helpful in like later in the series if it always happened, but it's just show that this ain't your daddy's robot type of thing, or I'm not like other robots. So Van is able to take out Tank by predicting his movements. Then Van is almost taken out by Genji because Genji's LBX chameleon can camouflage, and he uses that to like keep on slicing at Van. And Van is saved by Kaz, who sends out his LBX trooper, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, guys, yeah, I'm not gonna leave you hanging. Three for one for all, or whatever." So Um, yeah. So AX moves on its own again and defeats Rico. And Kaz hits Genji with a stun grenade, which stuns his LBX. So Van is able to finish him off. And Hans's gang retreats, and the heroes come in pursuit. So they arrived at like this like abandoned garage, and this is where Hans and his gang are hanging out. And so they're like, hey Hans, like you stole that armor, like we want it back. And he's like, I didn't, well, I did steal it, but I had my reasons, like because I'm protecting this armor. Like a man named Lex asked me to get this armor because he told me I had to keep it out of the wrong hands, or whatever. Yeah, like a lot of people are going around saying that things are gonna end badly if we don't just, I don't know, take things from strangers or do stuff that strangers tell us to do. So, that's why I took the armor. And they're like, look, I don't know what any of that means. Well, I know Van probably should know something, but the rest of them are like, look, we don't care. Just give it back. And he's like, okay, you know what? Here, take the armor because it doesn't even fit my LBX destroyer. So you know what? I'm bored. Let's do something interesting. How about you fight me, Van? You equip the Achilles armor onto your AX00, and then we fight. if you win, you keep Achilles, but if I win, I keep the armor and your LBX. How does that sound? Also, if your friends want to come in, like we can make this 3-on-1. Like I'm just itching to like break something today, and so they're like, well, okay, I guess we don't have a choice. And Kaz is like, yo, do you still want to do this? I'm telling you, man, like, this man's a monster. Like, his destroyer just eats other LBX for breakfast. He's like, look, man, we've come this far. Why did you even come here if you're still going to be, pussing out on me? Are you in or out? And he's like, fine, fine, let's do this thing. And so that's where the episode ends. So now it's Van, Kaz, and Amy versus Hans' destroyer. Okay, on to episode 3. So the gang decide to go with hit and run tactics for Hans as they're preparing to fight his OBX destroyer, since destroyer is like a big bulky robot, so they think that they can use speed to their advantage. And Kaz switches his trooper's sword for a blaster to hit from long distance, and Van equips AX00 with the new Achilles armor, and so now AX00 will be referred to as Achilles. And so they send in their LBX into the battle diorama, which this one's like it's not a Roman Colosseum, it's like Roman ruins, and so the fight starts. And one thing I forgot to point out is that something that happens in the games and the Japanese version of the anime is that when the OBX are about to battle, they like stand around for a second, and then the text "Battle Start" appears. But that doesn't appear in the English version, so the LBX are just standing around at the beginning for like a few seconds, and it's pretty awkward with like no text to go with it. So yeah, the fight starts. So they do the plan. They're hitting Destroyer, running around, hitting him again, and Amy starts to talk mad trash like, huh? I guess you never should have agreed to doing 3v1, huh? And so yeah, Hans is like, bro, I was only just warming up. I'm about to like take out you first, Van. And so what happens is he unleashes um like a super move. LBX can release super moves called attack functions in Japanese, special attack routines in the English dub. And so he releases his special attack routine, Breath of Fire, and it doesn't hit them, but it covers the entire arena with smoke. And so everyone's vision is blurred, and Hans uses this chance to sneak up behind Van to like strike him, but Kaz pushes him out the way, and so Hans proceeds to tackle Kaz's LBX into the air and slices him down with like one swing of a sword, and then Trooper explodes. So Kaz is out of the fight, and his OBX is completely like turned to dust. Like, it's pretty brutal. And yeah, they're all pretty messed up about that. And Kaz is like, "Look, just keep going. Do not worry about me." And so Van and Amy begin attacking more aggressively now. I think it's probably because they're just, emotionally like enraged at what happened. So they all hit and run tactics just go out the window. So they're attacking more aggressively, and that's just making them more sloppy. And so Hans is just beating them down, and he tries to finish them off again with another special attack routine blast of his fire cannon. And when he fires it this time, Kaz notices that the LBX that LBX destroyer that Hans is controlling temporarily stalls, like it powers down, and he's taking note of that. But Van and Amy get hit with the full force of the blast, and they are left immobile. And so Hans is prepared to destroy Achilles, but Achilles again moves on its own, and he gets back up, and Amy joins in as well. And Kaz informs Amy and Van that, hey, when Hans unleashes his fire blast, it temporarily stuns, so you should use that opportunity to finish him off. And so what they do is Amy just runs up to um yeah, Amy runs up to Hans when he's about to fire, but then he catches Amy and says, "Ha, you thought I didn't know about my own weakness? Like, you guys are stupid." But then what really happened was it was a feint, because Amy, what she did was when she was running up, she like kicked um Trooper's gun because while Trooper was destroyed, like Kaz's LBX, like the gun survives. So she pushed that gun towards Van, and while Han's distracted with Amy and is about to fire his cannon, Van shoots the gun and it hits Hans's destroyer's cannon, and it makes him overload, and it blows up. But like the Hans is still in the fight, but he receives heavy damage, and this really pisses off Hans. Like he's like, you know what? Screw all that noise. I'm going to destroy your LBX like completely. I'm going to tear up that armor, then grind your core skeleton into dust. So all that talk about protecting the Achilles armor is just out the window. Like this is what happens when you entrust stuff like this to like freaking like kids. So Hans and Van like do a running clash, and Van is able to like pierce Hans first, and so Destroyer falls down and powers down. So Hans's LBX isn't fully destroyed; it just powers down because you can either fully destroy or power it down. So Van and Amy win, and Hans is like, "Okay, you guys won the fight. I guess I'm out. Peace." And like Kaz goes to like the battle box and like picks up like one of the remaining arms of his LBX, and he's just looking at it, and Van is like, "Yo, I'm so sorry, man. Like, I was hoping like we'd all come out of this on top." And Kaz is like, "Hey, like I knew the risks to this. It's fine, but I know bro was like probably seething like, bro, I told you this was a bad idea, but you know what? I'm gonna be a good friend and just have my space." So he leaves, and he's basically like, "Hey, I just need some space for a while, okay? But I'll see you guys later." So it cuts to Hans, like he meets with Lex, and he's apologizing like, "Look, I lost the Achilles armor because I was getting cocky and was trying to take the AX double low. I'm sorry, man." And Lex is like, "Don't worry about it. Like we'll just keep tabs on it." So, and again, Lex is still spouting stuff about, "Hey, this LBX could be dangerous. It could either be used for good or for evil." So that's still going on. So Hans is like roped into that whole mess. So yeah, so Van and Amy are like taking a look at Achilles again, and still reveling in their win, but still feeling bad that Kaz had to lose. All right, so okay, so this is okay. This is where things get interesting because this is where the big differences start with the English and Japanese versions of the series. Like because we're starting to get into one of the arcs that the English dub completely skips over. And like I won't finish this arc today. Like it's gonna lead into like the next podcast episode, but yeah, this is the start of that. So we cut to like a Congress building. I'm guessing like a Congress official building because this place takes place in Japan. So like a place where a bunch of political officials are meeting, and the newly elected prime minister Vanguard is finishing up a speech and opens up the board for questions. And here we see the main villain of like the series, the leader of the New Dawn Razors, Killian Kaito, and he like coaxes like another official next to him to like ask a question to the new prime minister to like discredit him, like catch him like off guard. So what happens is like I, this guy doesn't have a name, but basically like this official's like, "Hey, new prime minister, how do you feel about Japan expanding their new military weapons program? Like, what do you think of that? Like, do you think we should be focusing all our efforts into expanding that?" So like I think like Kaido's low key in like the arms race, so he's just wanting to see if Prime Minister Vanguard will have his back, like especially because he's newly elected, so he wants to see where this whole thing is going to play off. And Vanguard's like, "Hey, look, like technological innovations are going to happen, but what is really important is that we keep in mind like human intent. Like if we're focusing on like military like technology evolving, then we need to focus on the soldiers and like the leaders who are going to be using this. We need to make sure that they know right from wrong, and only then can we, make efforts to hopefully not have to use our technology for war. Hopefully, we can prevent that in the future. And yeah, Killian Kaido is like really mad at this, but everyone is applauding. So I wonder what's going to come of that. So after that scene, oh no, it's still in that scene. So the scene is being watched by because this is also being broadcast on TV. It's being watched by Damon. The remember he's like the president of Tiny Orbit, and he's like, okay, this guy's pretty cool, but he does raise some interesting points about how we need to take into account human intent when it comes to new technology, especially if our LBX are going to be in that conversation. So like I'm like low key like okay, so you're sort of acknowledging that LBX are dangerous, right? Because why else would you bring up LBX in this conversation? But so that happens, and we once again cut back to the Noondog Razors base where they're constructing a new LBX to fight Achilles to again take the LBX by force, and that's the end of the episode. So yeah, that's basically the first arc of the beginning of Little Balor's experience with Danball Senki, and like this arc was Van getting his new LBX, LEX00, and turning it into Achilles, and like the under rumblings about like the new Dawn Razors and like the main villains and how that's going to play. And so yeah, so that's the end of this podcast episode. This is something new I'm doing, and again, I wanted to talk about the series because barely anyone has talked about it, and it's like semi obscure in the US. So I really hope this has been enjoyable. Leave some if you have any comments about like if you like the series, or any comments about how can I improve these podcast episodes or anything else. Just leave a comment. But thank you all for watching. Please, I guess, like, follow, like, subscribe, all that. And I will see you all next time with another review of Little Bowler's Experience. Good night, everyone.